just as we all expected, the Ravens blew out the Lions 38-6. I don't think anybody saw that coming, and this one was not close at all. If anything, it left everyone, including myself, very shocked. And to make matters worse, I really think that the Ravens actually took their foot off of the pedal at some point in this one. This was 28-0 at the half, ended 38-6. If they played as hard as they did in the first half, this could have gotten even uglier. Honestly, I don't know that I've seen a worst first 7 drives of a football game all year. This thing was over after these 7 drives. The Ravens started with the ball and went right down the field and scored on their opening drive like it was nothing. And that just really set the tone right there for the game. And the Lions never recovered, like not even sort of. The Lions immediately went 3 and out on their first drive. And then again, the Ravens drove right down the field and Lamar Jackson hit Nelson Aguilar. Yes, he's still in the league, but he hit Nelson Aguilar for a touchdown. I honestly can't believe that dude is still playing football at this point.
My man just started throwing babies out the window. We was catching them. Unlike Aguilar.
The Lions got the ball back, already down 14-0 early, and they went 3 and out again. Ravens get the ball back. They were at the very least able to pin them back, and it didn't matter. Ravens went 92 yards in 8 plays and made it 21-0. Already down 21 early. Lions need to answer. You guessed it. 3 and out. 3 straight 3 and outs to start the game. The defense can't stop anyone. The Ravens get the ball back and go 80 yards in 6 plays, and all of a sudden, after 7 drives, the Ravens have had the ball 4 times, Lions have had the ball 3 times. Lions have gone 3 straight 3 and outs. Ravens have gone down and scored on all 4 possessions. It truly is one of the worst stretches of football I've ever seen, probably the worst this year. Now, luckily from there, the Ravens didn't score again in the first half, but the Lions just couldn't get anything going. They ended up turning it over on downs on one of their drives. They really did try to get back into it, and they just couldn't do anything. Then they got the ball first to start the second half, and on their first 2 drives of the second half, you needed some momentum. You needed to try to get something going, and they didn't. They turned it over on downs, and then Jared Goff threw an interception. In between those 2 drives, the Ravens went 94 yards in 9 plays to go up 35-0. I mean, this one was ugly. This one was already over. I honestly stopped paying attention to whatever was happening in this game. Now, thank God, Baltimore only hit a field goal for the rest of the game. That made it 38-6 because the Lions did actually score. Hilariously, Jahmyr Gibbs finally scored in what was at the time a 35-0 game. He actually got to have the majority of the touches with David Montgomery out, and even Craig Reynolds was questionable coming into the week. It was nice to actually see Jahmyr Gibbs get some usage. It's just been baffling the way they used him. When you take a guy in the first round, especially a running back, you best use him because that's already a crazy pick, and they just haven't. You can maybe use Jahmyr Gibbs as a positive, but there really weren't any. It was a very, very ugly loss for the Lions, and it does raise a lot of questions. But let me make this abundantly clear here. This game was a lot more, in my opinion, about the Ravens than it was the Lions. This Ravens team is legit. I think they are a legitimate Super Bowl contender. Now, the Lions are still a very good football team, but they are supposed to be a hell of a lot better, and that's just the reality. Now, I want to echo a Brett Coleman tweet here. I'm sure you know who Brett Coleman is, but he tweeted this, and this is just the perfect way of explaining these 2 teams. Now, the tweet is from a few days ago before the game, but he said that the Lions looked like the best team in the NFC, and I do think that they can still be the best team in the NFC. Now, maybe that just shows how weak the conference is or how good the Lions is. Kind of depends how you want to look at it. But the main thing here is that the Ravens are the top threat to the Chiefs, and I absolutely think that that is true. Now, I don't have a ton of faith in the Bills or the Bengals. I've been very skeptical of both all season. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if one of them gets hot. They end up being good come later in the season or the playoffs and just get hot at the right time. But as of right now, the Ravens have been playing much better football, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them in the AFC Championship game lined up against the Chiefs. Baltimore really just might be that good. Now, they are still putting it together. They have a couple pretty baffling losses. I mean, they somehow lost to the Colts. They somehow lost to the Steelers. Now, the Steelers are kind of a solid, scrappy team. I like them a little bit. Well, I don't like them, but I think they're solid. They're fun to watch. Now, more importantly, when it comes to the Ravens, it's stupid that we stopped viewing it this way, but Lamar Jackson's still a top 3 quarterback in this league, in my opinion. Injuries last year made some people forget, and it was a very weird season for him last year, but he's back. I mean, he's still that dude, and we need to start giving him that respect again. Him and the Ravens, man, they're just so good. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not worried a ton about the Lions, because this is a good Ravens team. Now, I actually like the Lions a lot. They're a team that I'm rooting for pretty hard this season. They've had a lot of losing seasons, and it'd just be nice to see them have some kind of success. But man, they really just confuse me sometimes. I've had my questions since the draft, and that just made me worried from there. Drafting a running back in the first round, Jahmyr Gibbs, is very much a luxury pick, and it's something that the Lions didn't really have. It should have been someone else. They're a good team, but there are too many holes to be taking a running back with your, not only that, your first pick in the first round, especially since you gave David Montgomery a solid contract and you clearly prefer him now. Now, it's not really a hot take for me to not like the Jahmyr Gibbs pick. I think a lot of people are against drafting a running back in the first round. I'm even against the Bijan Robinson pick, but I think you can at least justify that a little bit more. Not necessarily a hot take, but I also didn't like the Jack Campbell selection. He's fine, but it just felt like a reach at an unimportant position. It's a position I don't like taking early at that linebacker spot, and it felt like a reach. That's just a disaster pick in my opinion. It just felt really silly, and that's one of the reasons why bad teams stay bad. The front office and management just make stupid decisions, and the Lions are one of them. It's one of the reasons they've been bad for so long. You look around at the Chargers, the Browns, the Redskins when Dan Snyder was there. It's hard to say with new ownership now, I guess, but you have these teams that have just always made dumb decisions, and the Lions, that's gonna kill them. Ultimately, this is just a good team, not a great team. I think they're a Super Bowl contender, but they're in that tier 2 of those contenders. Now, luckily for them, they're gonna easily win the NFC North. That division is a complete joke now. It's actually hilarious. Jordan Love, I still have some faith in, but he's definitely struggled. The Bears suck. The Vikings suck. I think the Vikings could actually still win a few games here down the stretch and be better than they have been to start the year, but it's the Lions division and it's not particularly close anymore. They should run away with it with no problems whatsoever. The question isn't whether or not they can win the division like a lot of other teams, it's can they compete with the big dogs, and I don't really know. 49ers, Eagles, Cowboys, I think the Lions might be able to beat like the Cowboys. I just don't know that they're better than the Eagles or the 49ers, and right now I want to say no. Now, Jared Goff has played very well this season, and that's awesome to see. I'm so happy with the way he has redeemed himself in Detroit. It's kind of weird the way everything ended in LA. And remember, he did take them to a Super Bowl, even if they did only score 3 points in it. With Goff, with Dan Campbell, this is just an easy team to root for. I like the Lions a lot, but the Ravens just absolutely exposed them. It's not time to panic, but there are absolutely some questions that now need to be answered. I do have faith in Dan Campbell though, and like I said, if there's anything to take away from this video, it's that I think this game was a lot more of the Ravens proving how good they are and what they can do than the Lions falling short. I think Detroit is gonna be fine. I think they're gonna figure it all out. I think they're gonna end up being a really good team and being one of those top teams in the NFC. But more importantly, the Ravens might have just proved that they are like that. They might be one of those dogs this season, and honestly, with Lamar Jackson, it wouldn't surprise me one bit.